Hello everyone. So in this video, I aim to alleviate some confusion that many of you may be experiencing. Because this is commonly what happens with victims, survivors of narcissistic abuse, is that they see the narcissist going off. It looks like they're happy now with a new supply. Everything is going well for them. They've got the life that you didn't get, that you wanted with them. And you feel like that's been taken from you. Like the life, the dream life that you wanted and that you invested in to try and make it a reality. You feel like that's gone now and as though it's someone else's. And you feel like they've got this happiness and success together. And you're the one who's just left by yourself after all of that has been destroyed. And I know that's the pain that so many of you are going through right now. And I can understand how hurtful that must be. It must make you think, did I not mean anything? Did everything that I did, everything that I gave to this person, did it just not even matter? As though they just took it, and to them it didn't really mean nothing. Or that they just go off and they start a new life with someone else. That's how it can feel sometimes. And yeah, it could just make you feel like you just never even mattered. Like it was just you just weren't good enough, even though you gave it all, you had everything you had, you gave everything you had. It can feel like that just wasn't good enough. And they will always put that on you as though, despite the grand scale of everything that you achieved and accomplished and provided to them, somehow, they rationalize it in some way and they put it onto you, and it's still just you. It's still just some kind of issue that you've got. And that's why now you're the one who's left alone. You're the one who's left suffering. Because it's just you. And it's like, yeah, despite everything that you did, everything that you achieved, it just wasn't quite good enough, is what they want to make you think. So that they can just get away scot-free and just forget about you, start a new life with someone else. That's what they like to do. And, it just doesn't really make any sense. The more you look into it, it just doesn't add up. If that was the truth, if all of these narcissists, if what they're saying is true, that all of us are just not good enough for them. I mean, I've had so many clients, I've spoken to so many intelligent, attractive, successful people. Doctors, lawyers, even celebrities. And even, if we look at celebrities like there's Will Smith, Johnny Depp, Jeff Bezos. There's so many high-profile, super successful, attractive people who just get run into the ground by these narcissists. So if what they're saying is true, then so all of these people just aren't good enough? What is good enough then? It's always just the next fresh new source of supply. That's what they want to make us think, and it can seem believable to us after we've given everything that we could and it just wasn't enough, or so they make us think. And this is why it's so important to look back at everything that you did give and provide to them. And then also just to make a list of what you actually got in return, so that you can see that you gave far more value than what you received. Because that really determines who was the most valuable there. And also who really was the one who was just looking for a quick ride, something short, and who really was in it for the long haul. Because clearly, if someone gives it all like you did, invested what you invested, you gave it everything you had. You give it all of your life, your energy, your money. Nobody's going to do that for something short term. It just doesn't make any sense. You did that because you genuinely believe that this person was actually about something for real. You didn't realize that they were just looking for a quick fix, a quick come up. And had you had realized that at the start, then you probably wouldn't have invested so much. So you can see how they kind of twist it around on you, and they make it seem like it's you who's that type of person, when no, really it's them. That's why the entire time they were the ones who were holding back. You were the one investing everything, giving it everything you had, until eventually you had nothing left to give, and then they blamed you and made it out like you just weren't good enough for them anymore. You see how they twist it around on you? But yeah, that's just a quick summary of what we're going to get into in this video, and really exploring what's going to happen now with the new supply. So if you like the sound of that, give it a thumbs up, and let's dive into it together. Because I can tell you, a narcissist, even someone with just narcissistic traits, their toxic behavior is likely to never stop. Even when they move on to a new supply, they will continue with the same patterns of manipulation, control, gaslighting, and devaluation that they exhibited before. The cycle of narcissistic abuse is going to remain consistent regardless of who's in their life. How you got to think about it is, the only reason why you think it's going to stop and now everything's good for them with the new source is because you believe in their narrative about there being something wrong with you. Now think about it like this. I mean, when you are consistently giving and providing so much of yourself to someone, you're investing in them, why would they undermine and demean your efforts? When you're trying, you're doing the best that you can. Why would they do that when you're giving it your all? You're giving them your positivity, your optimism, everything you have, all of your energy, your enthusiasm, your money and resources. You're investing it all into them. So why would they just crush it down? Why would they crush your efforts? Why would they not be supportive and encouraging? Especially since by them doing that, they could then get more. It could be more beneficial for them. Or could it? Maybe it couldn't if they're lying to you. And of course, yes, they are lying to you. That's why they appear to self-sabotage. It's because they're only thinking short term. They're only thinking about just coming in, take what they can get, and then getting out with it. Because they already know they're not good enough for you. They're manipulating you, deceiving you, giving you lies of future faking. They're not on your level. And so they're just coming in thinking about how they can make a quick bucket of you. And that's why, even after you've given so much, they just undermine you, demean you, and make it seem like what you give wasn't anything. Or they'll tell you they didn't enjoy it anyway. Sometimes they will just flat out say you didn't do anything for them. And you can show them all of the photographs, all of the trips you took them on, all of the bank statements, all of the money you spent on them. You could just slap it on the table right in front of them. It's not going to make a difference. They are delusional. They are in denial. All they care about is protecting their fragile egos. And the reality is they are just users and abusers. They came in just to get something out of you, just to use you and get rid of you once you begin to catch on. So it's not that there's something wrong with you or that you're not good enough. It's just that they wanted to come in and use you and, just create this perfect crime where they also just point the finger at you at the end and blame you so that they can get away with it scot-free. They can come in, rob you, blame it all on you, act like you're the reason why that happened. You're the reason why you lost it all. And it wasn't good enough for them. They weren't happy about it. So now they're gone, they're off to someone else. It's what they always do. This is how they get away with it scot-free. Well, at least it appears that they do. But you got to think, someone with that mental illness, with that disorder, how can they get away with anything? They are their own worst enemy. They are their own karma, and they sabotage everything they get into. They have to. They have to sabotage anything they have. Because in order to sustain it, they've got to give, they've got to provide something. And typically they won't, because even if they do, it's going to fall short of the other person's expectations, the person that they targeted. But I know many of you may have seen the narcissist and the news source in person. You may have seen them on social media. And you may be thinking, what? It looks like they're happy. It looks like they're living their best lives together. It looks like they're having such a great time. And then you may be thinking, well, what am I talking about? I must have gotten it wrong, at least in your case, because it looks like they're doing pretty good. It looks like they're so much happier now without you. So what's going on with that? Let's talk about it. Because this is just it. This is the whole point with a narcissist, is that they just happen to be experts at creating a polished, attractive public image. They are masters at making it seem like everything is perfect, even when it's not. And that's how they got involved with you. That's how they pulled you into a relationship. Because if you knew what you were getting into, you wouldn't have got involved in it. They manipulated you. They made you believe that it was worth your time. They deceived you. And they made everyone else believe that you had something good together, as though there was nothing wrong with them, even while they were abusing you, manipulating you all of that time. So you see, they are masters at doing this. And of course, even when they move on and they're with a new source, they're still that same master, that same expert of giving you this fake image. So it doesn't matter what you see from them. It's all an illusion. And remember, what you're seeing now as an observer is only the highlight reel. You're not seeing everything that's going on. Just as when you were with them, people weren't seeing what's going on behind closed doors. And typically what goes on in the home, what's hidden from public view, are the more darker and manipulative behaviors, the things that they don't want people to see or know about. And you know how the narcissist always likes to have control of the narrative. They deliberately manage how their relationships are perceived, ensuring that any signs of dysfunction are minimized or dismissed. And also, as may have been the case with you when you were with the narcissist, the new supply may be in a state of denial or rationalization. So they may be interpreting the narcissist's controlling behaviors as care or passion, which further reinforces the facade. And then there can also be external validation. There could be friends, family, even social media. All of these things can contribute to the illusion by echoing the polished, idealized version of the relationship. So all of this is going on. There's all of these different aspects to it. But yeah, it can make it seem like everything's perfect for them now. It can make it seem that way. But just because it looks that way, it doesn't mean that that's what it is. I mean, just think about it like this, right? Here's a little example for you. It's like when you go to McDonald's or Burger King, you see the promotions, maybe on a billboard or something, the advertisements on TV. The burger looks pretty great. But when you get to the restaurant, when you order a meal, the burger looks nothing like it did in that promotion or advertisement. And yet, you see that billboard again, you see that advertisement again, and you start craving the McDonald's or Burger King again. It makes you hungry for it again. It makes you want it. Even though you already know that when you get to that restaurant, it's not going to be the same as what you've seen in that advertisement. You already know that. And yet, it's almost like you fall for the illusion. And it's the illusion that captures your interest, even though you know that's not what you're going to get. You see how it works? And that's just it, you know, even McDonald's, even though it's one of the most well-known companies in the world, they still spend about $20 billion a year on advertising. Why do you think that is? If everyone already knows about it. I mean, there's practically a McDonald's in every town, every city in the entire world. At least one. And yet they're still spending billions every year on advertising. Just so they can show you their fake burgers, their fake buns that aren't even real. And it's not even what you're going to get when you get to the restaurant. It's because they know how important your perception is. Businesses, the marketing departments, they understand that the actual product or service isn't that important, as is the feelings and the fantasy surrounding it, the story that you tell yourself in your mind, which they feed into, making you feel like, oh, it's so fresh, so tasty. Some frozen burger that may have traveled halfway around the world. And this is how it is with so many products these days, is they'll tell you a story, they'll give you a description of it. And if you knew the preparation behind it, you would be thinking, how does this line up with that? How does this product go along with this description or this promotion? Because they understand it's more about distorting your perception and feeding into your emotions. That's how they get you. And it's the same thing that narcissists do. They view themselves as an object, as a product. They sell themselves to you. But the promotion that you see at the beginning, that's not typically what you get. So yeah, the new source is going to experience the same manipulation and gaslighting. It may not be the exact same tactics. The fundamental methods are the same, but the narcissist is likely to tweak their approach so that they can better exploit the new person's specific vulnerabilities. Because of course, not everyone has the same vulnerabilities or the same interests. We like different things, and certain things may upset you or turn you off, and it wouldn't have that same effect on me. So they tweak their tactics so that it's effective on the individual. And also that initial charm and charisma at the beginning of the relationship, it creates this facade that hides the abusive behaviors, which can make it hard for the new source to recognize the manipulation. And of course, that's what happened with us at the beginning, is that we fell for that charm. And we believe that that's really who this person is. And it made us overlook the manipulation. But even if the new source does notice the signs of manipulation, the narcissist may then intensify or adjust the tactics so that they can maintain control and keep the cycle going. So if this new source does not have strong self-awareness or a supportive network, then it's likely that, they will end up facing the same emotional, mental, and sometimes financial damage that previous victims have experienced. If you're finding this video helpful so far, give it a thumbs up. Thank you. But there is a high risk of repeated harm. Without any intervention, the new source is at significant risk of experiencing the same emotional, mental, and financial devastation that their previous victims have endured. The same things that you have gone through. Of course, because the narcissist employs the same tried and true tactics. They didn't just manipulate, control, or gaslight you. They do this with everyone who gets close to them. They have to. Because it's the only thing that makes them feel alive. They've got to have power and control over people. And when this is unchallenged, it can slowly erode a person's sense of self and stability over time. So, if nothing is going to change with them, then at some point, the new source is going to find themselves facing that same kind of ruin. Because the narcissist's influence is going to persist in destructive ways. However, what I will say is that this is not inevitable for everyone. Outcomes can vary. So if the new source just happens to have high awareness, firm boundaries, and a strong support network, then they may recognize the red flags early enough so that they can break free before the full extent of the damage unfolds. Because the narcissist cycle of abuse, it has a predictable pattern. We can predict what's going to happen. I mean, we can outline the stages of it. You've got the love bombing, idealization, followed by the devaluation, the discard, and often the hoovering. So it's predictable. We already know what's going to happen next. I mean, they want you to think that it's just this eternal idealization, love bombing phase. Just eternal happiness. That's what they want you to think. And it's just not realistic, because every relationship has ups and downs. And yet they want you to think that it's perfect, like there's nothing is going to be wrong with it. And if that's not a red flag, I don't know what is, because nobody is perfect. We all have our own issues. And like Dr. Ramani has said in one of her videos, the better a relationship looks on social media, the more toxic it's likely to be in real life. And so this is like another sign to look for, really, is that when they're displaying this stuff to you, the better that it looks, the more perfect it seems, the more that it looks like there's nothing wrong with it. So everyone's good together, everything is fine. It's probably because it's actually far worse than you could ever imagine. It's more toxic than you could ever believe. And that's why they just want to act like kind of like, let's see if I can give a good example here. It's kind of like, if you imagine like some kids at home, and let's say the parents went out for a bit, so they were playing in one of the rooms, they were running around, and maybe they let the dog inside the house, they were chasing the dog around. And the dog got muds all over all of the furniture, knocked down the vase, maybe smashed the television. And so it's just absolute destruction in that room. And then suddenly they hear the parents' car come down the driveway. And they're panicking. They're just so worried about, what have our parents got to think of this? You know, we let the dog in the room and there's all of this destruction everywhere. And it's so bad, there's so much damage, it's going to cost so much to repair. And they're just thinking, oh, we're going to have to sort it out later, clean it up. But for now, well, let's just not let our parents see this. So then what they do is they come out of the room, they close the door, and then you can probably picture their body language in your mind. They're just standing outside the door, the parents coming in through the front door. They're just standing there, really rigid, firm body language. Maybe their arms are folded. They're just smiling like this. They're like really tense. And their parents are like, oh, so how is everything? What have you been doing while we were away? And they're just like, yeah, everything's fine. We've just been playing. Then meanwhile, behind the door, there's like all of this destruction. There's like mud all over the sofa, the vase is broke, TV smashed up. You see what I'm saying? A narcissist, they're very childish, very immature. They have an arrested emotional development. They do the exact same thing. There's all of this chaos, all of this destruction going on. It's so toxic. But the narcissist, they just close the door, they pull down the curtain, and they just stand there, smiling. Yeah. Everything's good, everything's perfect. To the untrained eye, it may seem like everything's good. But once you've seen these things enough times, you can just take one look at them and you know, no, you're a mess. Your life is a mess. Everything is messed up. And you just need to come to that acceptance. You need to accept that things are screwed so that you can finally begin to make some real changes. Once you become trained in this field, you start to realize that how people are just so fake, are just trying to hold everything together, trying to hide all their problems and act like nothing's wrong. Those are the very people who are really struggling to cope. But they have to pretend like nothing's wrong. They have to pretend like everything's perfect. because they don't know how else to deal with it. And that's what you got to watch for. This is what narcissists are like. You just look on social media. Oh yeah, everything's so perfect. Their life is going so good. Really. Because no one's life is ever going to be perfect if it's real. I mean, unless you were just like, unless you were born yesterday, you've only lived like one day on this earth. Your life is not going to be perfect over a certain amount of time. And so it should really make you think, what are they hiding when they're posting this stuff up on social media, acting like they're living their best lives? This is always a red flag. Whenever you see people in a relationship and it looks like there's always these big smiles and it looks like everything's going great, or if you see like these families and maybe they're all just wearing like bright white clothes, not a single stain on their garments. They've got these big white smiles. And it's like, how do I describe it? It's like a coping mechanism. It's like, what are you trying to hide? It's like the big smile. It's like, have they done something to like pin their lips up? It's like the Joker. What is going on? What is going on with these people? This is what they're like. And these are the people who are more miserable, more dissatisfied than anyone else. They really are. Because they're running from themselves. They're running from the truth about themselves. They're trying to run away from their miserable lives. And you'll find true fulfillment, true connection, by just accepting yourself, your emotions, and your unhappiness. That's where you will find true happiness and fulfillment, through acceptance. You've got to accept it first. And that's why with myself, I've been, most of the time, I do feel like I'm happy most of the time, in all honesty. I do feel good. I do have tons of energy, enthusiasm, pretty much every day. It's just when I'm around certain people, they drain my energy. And then I feel depressed, I feel miserable because of the effects of other people. But I myself, I feel good most of the time. And the reason why is because I have that acceptance. And this is why you will see in my videos from the very beginning, I talk about the things that have happened to me and how it made me feel. I'm very vocal about, the things that I've experienced. I'm never trying to hide it. I am a truth teller. And I do believe that that's what allows me to experience such deep connection and fulfillment, is that acceptance. Because if you don't even accept yourself, you don't even know yourself, you run away from yourself, how can you connect to anyone or anything? How can you find happiness or fulfillment in anything? You can't. And of course, that's what's going on with a narcissist. Even when they're with the new source, they're still just lying to themselves. They're living a lie. They're denying reality. It's a form of escapism. They're running away. And so they still don't find the happiness or satisfaction that they're looking for. And instead, the new source may eventually begin to catch on, just as you did, and see that it's all a facade, it's all a lie. And then the narcissist will turn against them and start devaluing them. Because the narcissist is never going to go within and accept themselves. They're not going to accept that they have a problem. And that's how, there's really just no winning with these people. You can't get on with them because they do not want to accept themselves. They do not want to see themselves. They're just in denial. And highly sensitive to criticism. You just can't talk to them about anything. They will get offended. They will get upset. They're not going to have a discussion with you. And they're not going to take any personal responsibility. They're not going to look at themselves and think, oh, yeah, I can see what you're saying. I can see where I might have gone wrong here. I can see where I could have done this better. You're not going to get that from them because they're running away from themselves. They're living in denial, and they have been for a long time. And that's why they can only have these surface level relationships. They can't go deep. There's never going to be any depth. So, living their best life. No narcissist is going to be living their best life. No person who is self-absorbed and lacks empathy. No person who exploited you or anyone else and took no personal responsibility or accountability and didn't deal with any consequences for their actions. No person who is highly manipulative. A person like that is never going to be living their best lives. Or they're only ever going to be living their best lie. And they're never going to experience a deep, true connection with anyone, because connect what? To what? What are we connecting to? I mean, just think about this, like a connection, a relationship. You know, a relationship is the way in which two people connect. What are they connected? Are they connecting themselves? They don't accept themselves. They don't accept anything that they've done to you. The state, the condition that they left you in. There's no accountability, no consequences. They may have ghosted you, not giving you any closure. Yeah, clearly this person does not accept themselves, is not connected to themselves. So they're not connecting themselves to anything. What they are connected, if you can even call it connection, they're connecting their false self, a fake image. And they're not even connecting that fake image to a real person. They don't even see the person. It's an object to them. They view people as objects. And they idealize them. They view them as perfect. So essentially, it's only ever just these two imaginary characters that don't even exist, because even when they're not idealizing you and they're devaluing you, that's not even you. It's a black and white mentality. It's just all good or all bad, perfect or flawed. So they're only ever just entertaining these imaginary characters in their minds. And there is no connection. There is no connection to themselves. And so there's no connection to anyone else. So, yeah, it's only ever going to be a transaction with a narcissist. And it's going to be like the McDonald's promotion. A product that doesn't even exist. Or doesn't do what it makes you think that it's supposed to do. It's just only ever going to be fake. Because there's no real person there, there's no real connection, they're not connected to themselves, they lack self-awareness, they're in denial. And so they're never going to be living their best lives. Because they're not even in the driving seat, they're not even the main character in their own lives, they're taking a back seat. So, how can they live their best lives? It's the false character, that's the one who is at the front of the line. And they're kind of just an observer in their own life. But even then, it's like they're trying to suppress whatever's left of that real part of them. So they're never going to be living their best life. It's only ever going to be a best lie. It's only going to be aligned to themselves and to everyone else. So, yeah, initially, they may seem like they're happy and successful because of the narcissist's charm and crafted facade. But over time, the familiar patterns of manipulation, control, and gaslighting will begin to erode the new source's emotional and mental well-being. And so without a breakthrough in self-awareness or intervention, the continuous abuse is likely to lead to long-term ruin, emotionally, mentally, and even financially. Doesn't matter who this new source is. Doesn't matter who they are. Doesn't matter even if they're similar to the narcissist, even if they're a narcissist themselves. Doesn't matter who they are. Abuse, toxicity, it affects people. Even people who are also abusive or toxic themselves, they still get affected by it. Now, they may not notice the effects as much, which can make it even worse, because then it's like they're like a frog in boiling water. You know, as the water is gradually being heated up. And they don't notice how it's affecting them, but it is still affecting them. I mean, there are rare exceptions where some people who may have some form of immunity, as Dr. Armadio spoke about in one of her videos, some people may have somewhat of an immunity to narcissists. So initially, they might temporarily ward off the negative impacts. But whoever they are, it doesn't matter who they are. With sustained exposure to toxic behavior, it will invariably undermine true happiness and success. True success and happiness cannot exist in toxic environments. It's only ever going to be fake and superficial. So, unless the new source finds a way to break free from the narcissist's control, then the long-term outcome is going to mirror the destructive pattern seen in previous victims, such as with you. Give this video a thumbs up if you find it helpful so far. Because this is what people got to understand, you know? Narcissists craft an alluring fake persona that appears perfect and captivating, but it's only designed to win admiration and trust, which is their supply. And this charm and image is a short-term strategy. It hides their true manipulative nature until it serves its purpose. And then once they secure a target, they revert to familiar tactics, such as manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional control, which then gradually erodes the target's self-esteem and independence. And so when the facade eventually cracks and their true behavior is exposed, the narcissist typically abandons the relationship to then seek a fresh supply to exploit, or sometimes return to previous sources if there is an opportunity for them to do so. But in most cases, nothing fundamentally improves, because without that profound self-awareness or external intervention, these underlying destructive patterns will persist. And so those who are caught in the narcissist web are going to face long-term emotional, mental, and sometimes financial ruin, because this cycle of abuse does tend to repeat itself. I mean, all a narcissist can do is run you through the cycle. The love bombing, devaluation, discard, and sometimes hoovering. It's a cycle of abuse. Idealization. People don't mention this enough. And I gotta say it, I gotta make sure that you know this, because this is very important. Idealization. You know, when you put someone up on a pedestal, when they put you up on a pedestal, or they get you to do that for them, the love bombing, even spoiling, it's abuse. It's a form of abuse, because you're putting someone way up here and it's unrealistic. It's not who they really are, and they cannot sustain this ideal image. So what happens afterwards, after they come out of this fantasy, it's going to be very harmful, very painful for them, very damaging. Idealization, love bombing, putting people on pedestals, this is also abuse. It's the initial part of the abusive cycle. And it just makes the following stage, the devaluation, even more damaging. And then the discard even more damaging. And then the hoovering even more confusing, or more enticing and addictive. All of it is abuse. All of the stages of the cycle are abuse, including the idealization and the love bombing. Because there's no true connection there. At any time that you're being objectified, you're not being viewed as a real person with your own feelings and needs, it is abuse. Because you're not an object. You do have your own feelings and needs. And if those are being neglected, and instead you're just being viewed as a toy, a plaything, just a lifeless doll, then you're being abused. So all of it is abuse. And yeah, it just makes the devaluation phase even more damaging as well. If the idealization isn't damaging enough, and this is what they do. And this is why it's inevitable. Anyone who gets involved with these people, they're going to suffer the same result. Unless they manage to get away early on. And by early on, I mean typically during the love bombing phase. If you're with a narcissist for a short time, it's not going to be that damaging. I mean, you may suffer some mild emotional damage, but that can fade away, that can heal. And in some cases, all you really need is just maybe a rom-com, and a tub of Ben & Jerry's, maybe some Domino's pizza, and then you're over it, you're moving on. It's like that kind of thing, you know. If it's just like, you're in the love bombing phase, you know, it's just for like a few days, maybe a couple of weeks, you're going to get over that quite quickly. It's not going to be such a big deal. But when we're talking about longer relationships with narcissists, that's something that's a tub of Ben & Jerry's is not going to fix that. A rom-com, a night in with Lost in Translation, Bill Murray, Scarlett Johansson, that's not going to be enough to get over that. It's going to take a lot more. Being involved with narcissists, it can produce real lasting damage. And that's why it takes time for us on our healing journey. When it's just a short encounter, a one-night stand, a weekend, it's not going to take that long to get over that. The pain isn't going to be that deep. It may feel deep sometimes. It may feel like you've really suffered something. But that's only because it may resurface past wounds. That's what that is. Long-term relationships with narcissists, when it's several months, like at least, I would say 6 months, but sometimes things move very fast in these relationships. So sometimes it could be just 3-4 months, and already it can be really affecting you. And especially if it's over 1 year long, then yeah, it can be extremely damaging. And it is a long process to heal from this. I would say you will notice some improvement after 6 months. Keep in mind, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist. I'm just a life coach. But I would say at least 6 months if you are healing properly and you've got the right routines, healthy coping strategies. At least 6 months until you notice some differences. And especially after 1 year, if we're talking about marriages, families, relationships that are several years long, decades long, then yeah, it's likely to take quite some time to heal from that. It could take years in some cases. But don't let that overwhelm you. It's not all about getting to the finish line and just standing on top of the mountain and being like, yeah, I'm healed. I'm all good again. It's not about that. Sometimes the best part can be climbing up. The journey. Enjoy the journey. Don't make it all about the destination. Don't make it all about getting there. Enjoy the ride along the way. Because if you do, when you finally get there, it'll make the destination that much more fulfilling. This is all a journey for us. So what if the healing takes several years in extreme cases? For many of you, it's likely not to take that long. In extreme cases, yeah, it could take that long. And some people, actually many people, most people never actually heal. They never implement the strategies to heal. They don't stick with it, so they get sucked in to another narcissistic relationship. So most victims do not heal from this. And yeah, it's a shame because they don't get to live out their full potential. They don't get to live the life that they could have lived. That's why it's so important to begin your healing journey. And it's a lifestyle. It's kind of like going to the gym, exercising, just your daily routines. It's not something where you go to the gym for a few months, even a few years, and then you suddenly stop and you never go again because then you're satisfied with your strength, your appearance, whatever it may be. No, you keep going, you keep doing it, and you never stop. This is something we do for life because it's ongoing maintenance. And yeah, we should find joy, fulfillment in the act of healing. It's supposed to be fun. It's not meant to be something that's so stressful and overwhelming and it's like such a burden for you. No, this is meant to be light-hearted and fun. Now that's how you got to see it. You got to reframe it. Healing can be fun, to listen to meditation videos, affirmations, even watch my videos. You know, sometimes I like to crack a joke or two in gear. I don't know if any of you noticed. And sometimes, you know, you see me hiking in the forest or by the beach. You know, I'm doing all of this to make it entertaining. That's why I spend so many hours editing my videos. You know, we want to make this fun. The healing, and you know, that's such an important part of it, because you know what we really want to heal is our inner child. The inner child needs some playtime. Play is incredibly healing, holding on to that childhood magic. Laughter is the best medicine. And feelings, passion, can be painful at first, but gradually you become stronger. And just having that passion, even fantasy can help. Fantasy could be healing. Reading books, watching movies, even playing some video games. I remember I was playing The Walking Dead on my Xbox most nights. That was very healing for me. Because, you know, narcissists, they're very much like zombies, aren't they? So yeah, let it be something fun. Let it become a lifestyle for you. As it has for me. And sometimes, you know, I do wonder, what would my life be like? What would I be doing? How would I be living? What would I be thinking if I never stumbled on this information, if I never began this career as a life coach and a narcissist expert? I think my life would be so much less fulfilling, so much less meaningful, less passionate. I just couldn't imagine living any other way. I feel like if I was doing anything else, I would just be in the Matrix. I would just be asleep. And so maybe this is it. Maybe this is what had to happen. And unfortunately, and maybe it didn't have to happen to this degree, but it did. And now we can let it be a wake-up call to us. Let it be something that teaches us, helps us to grow and become stronger, more aware, more conscious. Let it raise our consciousness. Because let's keep it real. I mean, before we were asleep, we didn't see it. We weren't aware of it. Now we are living. Now we're really alive. I didn't feel like I was alive before. I felt like I was sleeping. It was like I was living, but I wasn't really there. I was like asleep. But after going through the abuse, after dealing with a narcissist, now I feel like I am really living. I'm really alive here. But at the same time, I'm not in the Matrix. I'm not in the world. Now I'm more in reality. I'm not stuck in a fantasy loop like I was before. And that's why for me, you know, I can't say this for everyone, of course. For me personally, I wouldn't have it any other way, because I know if the things that happened to me didn't happen to me, where would I be now? Maybe I'd have more money. Maybe I would be in a nice villa by the beach. Maybe I would be at a bar right now with a beautiful woman. Maybe I would have a family. Maybe I'd have a nice home, everything. But would I be aware? Would I actually be awake? Would I really be living? Would I be immersed in this life and reality, or would I just be asleep in the matrix? Just doing what I'm told and seeking after what I've been told to achieve. That's not really me. That's not really my life. I'm just living someone else's life, chasing after someone else's dreams. And is that really meant to be our dream, our aspiration? Is what, to go deeper into the matrix? Chasing after what everyone else wants, what we've been brainwashed, conditioned to desire since we were children? Is that it? Or so we're cured to just remain asleep, unaware? No, I think we came here to wake up, to become aware of this matrix. And yeah, it seems that the powers that be, what they want to do is keep us all asleep. This is why wherever you go, there's these promotions, advertisements, brainwashing you. A lot of the movies these days, you got feminism, red pill. Either extreme, it's still just indoctrination, isn't it? And they've got these cities, and we all live in these like massive pods, these condominiums, like the Matrix. Everywhere look is just this, it's individualism, consumerism. We've just built a fake world, a matrix. That's all that this is. And everyone's just asleep. Everyone's just running off some programming, what they've been conditioned to think. And this is really it. And so it's clear that they want to keep us asleep. They want to keep us focusing on individualism, consumerism, focusing on our own individual needs, and focusing on consuming, buying products, just focusing on our external image, superficiality. That's what they want us to focus on for our entire lives. So that our entire lives just pass us by and we never gather more wisdom, experience. Have you ever noticed? There used to be a time where the most respected people were our elders, older men. They were seen as wise. Now, what do you think of when you think of an older man? A perv? A creep? Just some old fogey? Like some guy with like Alzheimer's or something? Do you see how they've like brainwashed us? They've conditioned our perception. Now you think of an old man, I mean, like we're made to think that like most old men are pedos or something. This is what they do to us. There used to be a time when we would respect our elders. They were seen as wise. Now, who do people respect? The youth. What wisdom do they have? And yet they're all influencers now. So they want us to respect the youth. And what is it? Because of their appearance, because they're still young. That only has value in this world. But yeah, that's how it used to be, is that we would respect our elders for their wisdom. Because we were all about becoming more wise, learning more, knowledge. Not anymore. Now it's all about image, consumerism, individualism, superficiality. What value does that have? It lacks substance, depth. It's just instant gratification. It has no long-term value. But this is what they're promoting. Kim H says, sorry, there are a lot of not so wise old people. Yeah, you're right. I agree with you then. And of course, the reason why is because for several decades now, they've been focusing on the youth, on our appearance, and just products, image, just dumbing people down, rather than focusing on wisdom and learning more, knowledge. And that's why many of the old people we see today, you know, they're kind of like, they're all just like these retired rock stars or football players or something. That's what it's like. Very few people are on the search for knowledge. It's like truth just isn't even a part of our reality anymore. It's like we all have our own truth. It's like whatever you want to believe is true. Like you can just believe you're a certain gender and then you are that gender. Or you can believe that you can identify as an animal. And you can probably do that. It's just whatever you think, whatever you feel can be the truth in today's world. And I'm not really a supporter of either side in politics. For me, you know, I am more in the middle. I think that, yeah, you know, there were some benefits to even feminism, you know, even female empowerment. You know what we're seeing these days? Is it real female empowerment? And there's so many women these days who are manipulating, scamming men, given more equal opportunities now. They're not taking advantage of it. They're not actually working hard to provide a living for themselves. And they're kind of just keeping all of the money for themselves and still taking money from men. So they're kind of exploiting the system in that way. But that's why I say, you know, I'm more in the middle. I'm all for female empowerment. I think we should both be empowered, both sexes. There should be an equal balance of power. But that's just it. It's like, where do we draw the line, you know? Some people think it's already gone too far left. Others think that it's already gone too far right. Or has it gone far left enough? And I think that's what the problem is. It's people failing to identify where the justice is, and that's what then causes them to identify with a certain side. But you know, as with anything, instead of letting feelings get involved, we should be looking at facts and statistics. What is really going on? Show me the facts. Show me what is actually happening. Show me what's gone which way too far. And how do we reduce the statistics, the crime rates? How do we make things better? And I think that's just it. Because I do think, a lot of people, they want to blame politics, and there could be more responsibility that they could be taken for themselves. I do think that sometimes. And yet they want to blame the system when it's like, no, they've already had so many chances. But again, for me personally, I am more in the middle. I don't think that we should just completely just wipe out either side. I think we need both. But this has always been a problem, It's been a problem since the beginning of mankind. It's like, where do we draw the line? When is it enough? When is there the balance? Because we're kind of getting to the point where we realize that we need a balance of power. But it's like, how do we define that? That appears to be the problem now. And people want to distort it. People are trying to distort it because there's a lot of greedy people in the world. Or they genuinely just do not care what you're going through. They don't care about your suffering. All they care about is their profit and pleasure. And that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing in the world today. And again, I'm not on either side. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. And that is it. But also I am seeing people who are coming out and being more compassionate, more understanding. And yeah, that's good. But then also sometimes I do see that going to extremes. I see people coming out these days who are, finally, great. We're seeing more compassionate people. But then they're taking that to the extreme. And it's like history keeps repeating itself. It's like, slow down a bit. I mean, yes, we need that, but don't take it too far. Because otherwise the same thing is going to happen again. And it's like, when are we going to get it? When is it going to sink in? And it's like, it's the same thing with like homosexuality, transgenderism. The pendulum swings from one side to the other side. From one extreme to the other extreme. So at one point it was shameful, it was wrong to be transgender, to be homosexual. And then, now you've got to be so prideful, we've got to throw a parade down the street, everything. I was like, well, why? No, you should just see it as normal. It doesn't mean you have to make a big scene about it and everyone has to know about it and change their other life and work their lives around you. But they go to that extreme because for such a long time they faced injustice. And some of them genuinely did. Others, maybe not so much, but they exaggerate it because they're narcissistic and entitled. But this is what they do. This is what they do. And I know I'm making it out to be quite simple. Far more simple than how it actually is. And it's not just something where some people are exploitative and seeking power and the other side are just being victimized. It generally is difficult to find, that sweet spot. It's like the old saying goes, you can't please everyone. You really can't. But it does seem like time and time again, we continue to dismiss and shut down those who are more willing to tolerate it. And that seems unfair to me. And I think we do need to find the middle ground. Again, we don't want to go to extremes. Yes, people may have been dismissed, invalidated, but sometimes it's like human nature, you know, you give someone an opportunity and they may become more entitled and arrogant. I know, we've got to slow it down. And this is how things become this. Things become so rigid and extreme. But yeah, that's just my thought on it. And to be honest, I'm not really a fan of politics. I'm not really a fan of the system. And I don't really like the way that things are going. And I do dread to think, you know, what it's going to be like in the future. But then actually, no, I do already know what's going to happen. You know, I have been studying trends, doing lots of research, and I can see that, yes, you know, I'm sure many of you know, we are going to become more dependent on AI. We're going to be moving away from real human interaction. I mean, it's already become this way. We already spend most of our time on our phones, on our computers, on the internet. So many people are taking selfies and OnlyFans. And now on OnlyFans, there's AIs on there. There's AI models. And it's going to keep moving in that direction. And now, you know, there's going to be AI robots everywhere. People are going to have them in their homes, and they're going to be made very affordable so that everyone can have one, and that they can replace the people closest to you. And yeah, that's what's going to happen. You know, AI is going to replace people. It's going to do things that people can't or won't do. And, you know, we're already seeing the metaverse, virtual reality, and these Elon Musk's brain chips. And at some point, it could be developing within our lifetime. I mean, the AI robots are coming in, and the virtual reality is going to be developed greatly more within our lifetime. And at some point, we're all going to be wired into artificial simulations rather than real life, because, you know, at this point, at this stage in our lives, in our world, everyone's kind of in denial. Everyone's kind of just faking it, acting like they're happy. I mean, just go on social media, everything looks so perfect, when really everyone's depressed, everyone's miserable deep down, everyone has issues. And at some point, people are going to come to an acceptance. They're going to admit there's a problem, and then they're going to provide a solution. And the solution is going to be, well, you know, if we're not happy with our lives, with this world, with people, or we can't come to a resolution, What has the solution always been? For quite some time now, it's been technology. Back in the war, people had a problem with each other, with different countries. The solution was television, like in World War One. Escapism, to escape from the world. And then in the 90s, early 2000s, it was the internet. Now we've got social media, TikTok, Instagram, artificial intelligence. Now robots are coming in. And now, of course, it's going to develop more. And they're going to introduce more virtual reality, artificial simulations. At first, it's going to be something that kind of like helps you with your work or your studying, or it could be something like a hobby, like where you use virtual reality for exercise and that kind of thing. Exact same thing as what it was with the internet. In the early 2000s, the internet was just for work or studying. And now it's an everyday thing. It's replaced human interaction and connection. Same thing with virtual reality. This is why Mark Zuckerberg is developing it with this metaverse. Virtual reality, simulation, is going to replace real life for all of us. And who knows, maybe all of the pods are already prepared, because so many people these days, they live in apartments, condominiums, and it's like, maybe that covers part of the cost. You just pay for an apartment, condominium, you just lay down on the bed, they wire you up to the simulation. You've got a problem with the world, you've got a problem with all the people, life isn't going your way, you're not happy. Well, here's an easy fix. You just pay a certain amount of money, a subscription fee, and they can harness your energy at the same time, because that's what we have a shortage of in this world for the things that the powers that be are trying to accomplish. There's a shortage of energy. So they can harness your energy by wiring you up to the simulation, because you're not using that energy then. You're just sedentary, you're laying down. So they can harness all of that from all of these people and do incredible things with it. Meanwhile, we're wired up to the console, the simulation, and yeah, we're in a different world where we can have what we want. We can do the things we want to do. So it's a solution on both sides. It's a win-win. And that's why I believe that this is inevitable. This is my prediction. I've done tons of research. I can tell you, I've been researching about this since I was about 13 or 14. I had my own forums online. I had one called the Underground and another one called the Multiverse. Because even back then, even over 20 years ago, I was aware of the multiverse and I was studying about it. Back then, I think it was barely even a theory. Now, of course, there is actually the multiverse theory. But yeah, I've been studying about this stuff for a very long time. And a lot of it that I was researching about back then and sharing with people, I've actually forgotten about it, but I'm sure I probably had some awareness about simulations and artificial intelligence even back then. I just can't remember it that much now, but yeah, it's so clear that this is where it's going. This is what's going to happen, because everything is becoming so expensive. People are struggling to afford to live, and divorce rates are higher than they've ever been. People aren't even having sex anymore, they're not having children, and so much mental illness. There's just so many problems in the world,